welcome to the first episode of A Question of Trust, a football-related podcast. This podcast is related to the EFL, the English Football League, supporters of Exeter City and also members of the Exeter City Supporters Trust. It's an insight into the workings of Football Trust on a day-to-day basis. It's an insight into Exeter City AFC, currently playing in League 1 of the English Football League. It's also an insight into the day-to-day running of a football club in the UK and the world. We hope to capture the essence of EFL football, and in particular Exeter City. The final objective of the podcast is to find a few new members of the Trust from near and far. Perhaps get a celebrity fan who wants to support a community-orientated football club. And this podcast be split into 3 sections to capture the above updates. Guest contributors are welcome. Contact QOTPOD on social media and our Twitter account. The views expressed are the contributors' own and reflect a light-hearted view of goings-on. Hope you enjoy the cast. So, the opening episode, Season 1, Episode 1 of The Question of Trust, the QOTPOD on Twitter podcast. It's going to be split into 3 areas and reflect the structure of, surprisingly, an Exeter Trust meeting, where they have a Part A and a Part B. Part A is the more secret stuff, which they have to have a conversation of, which is fair enough. Part B is a slightly more open discussion. So Part A will be a discussion in this podcast of what's been happening in the Trust, the news, the good news, the general talking points. Part B will be a general discussion of Exeter City. And then we as a team will put in a Part C, which will be a general discussion of the Exeter-linked EFL, world football, the Premiership, things going on with guest commentators and appearances from people from other teams. If you are listening and want to come on the show and talk about a specific area, then feel free to do so. We intend the podcast to be a broad discussion of football, anything from grassroots football, charities, events, and sagas going on in football as things change. So, introducing the initial team. Like all football clubs in pre-season, we'll announce signings into the team. Initially, myself, Albie Yates. I'd describe myself as a veteran player that has seen better days. I follow the team at Exeter City as a Devonian from the Midlands. I have nearly 800 appearances to my name, home and away. I'm a season ticket holder. I've also followed England on international duty, including a World Cup appearance in the World Cup semi-final in Moscow, seeing England lose to Croatia, Modric in particular. I've also watched Exeter, I would say, and it only counts for me for the 92 at around about 78 of the grounds. I probably need to recount that with new stadiums and old stadiums, which will freely come into our discussions. I've probably been to about 120 plus grounds through football. I've visited quite a lot of non-league grounds through watching Exeter when they were there, and I've also been to a lot of European grounds, and I've got a little bit of a soft spot for FC Lorient, Le Merlu in northern France. As I say, I travelled to home and away games from the Midlands with my family. I have been a trustee and was one of the forming members of the Trust. So the Question of Trust team are delighted to have signed on a free transfer Mick Sinclair. He'll come up later on in the show. We'll let him describe his style of play when we speak to him. He's quite an interesting fan in terms of he's not a Devonian, he's from London, I believe, but I'll let him share his background and about himself when he speaks. The team are looking to bring in some young, youthful legs into the team. and we'll hopefully announce some guest loan signings and short-term non-contract players shortly. Mick lives in the southwest and he follows the club home and away like myself. So we will be authentic. The views expressed will be those of the people that come on. The whole objective of this is to share a little bit of what goes on at a trust-run football club and the trials and tribulations that go with it. If we can get some new members for the trust, that'll be absolutely fabulous. Our IT skills will mean that the quality of the show will be variable, and probably some of our interludes will be as badly timed as a red card tackle from any referee. So please bear with us, enjoy the show, and we'll now move on to discussing a little bit about Exeter City and the Exeter Trust. Hi and welcome to this section of the show, and we'll be meeting City Mick, who's joining the team on a free transfer. First things first, Mick, welcome. How you doing? You all right?
Thank you. I'm fine, thanks, Al. Many thanks for letting me appear on your podcast. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem at all. And in terms of yourself, if you're going to describe yourself as a footballer, obviously we've got you under contract now on QOTPOD. What's your style of play? What were you like in schools?
Absolutely dreadful, Al. At the most, I would probably play in goal simply because I was too lazy to actually run about on the pitch or in the schoolyard, and that was about it.
Brilliant.
Literally.
Brilliant. So we've got a goalkeeper and an industrial centre half in the team. So we definitely need some legs. Right. This first section, we're just talking about the trust. I know we both know a little bit about the trust, but do you want to sort of like give everybody a 2 to 3 minutes of what the Exeter Trust is about, how long it's been going, all that sort of stuff?
Well, the trust in its sort of true concept has been going for around 20 odd years, and the whole idea is to make was to make the club a supporters owned trust. Basically the supporters run the club from a certain level, and everyone contributes, say, a small donation per month into the supporters trust. This was the idea that I certainly got from. So basically the fans have more of a say on how the club is run.
And how many members are in the trust? I know we both know, but just for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah, I believe around 3,500. Sorry, about 3.5, probably 4,000 members.
Which is incredible, isn't it? Let's for a club that averages, what do we average at the moment? 6,500. That's quite considerable. And I'm leading you a little bit. What other things could you some quick facts about the trust? How much does it give the club, for example, per year?
I think it's a fair amount in revenue that the club gets from the membership of the trust itself. So I believe it's around three.
So I'll help you out there. It's about £120,000 a year, I think they put in.
Right.
But I think they've got about £1 million in reserve. So it's interesting, actually, that you didn't know the figures. And I actually think a lot of people within the trust. How long have you been a trust member, by the way? You've been a long time.
Quite a while now. I think 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, fair amount of time that I've been a trust member, but you've sort of put the nail on the head when you just said that even I, as a trust member, in all this time, didn't actually know certain figures.
Yeah, it's incredible actually, because there's some really good things from the trust. That's part of the reason for the show. For example, I know they've got about £1 million in reserve, just sat, which is great. which is for a rainy day. Now you stood, and I'm leading you a bit because I know that we both stood for election. You stood for election in the last election. How did you find that? Explain to everybody how that sort of works and how many people get to vote on joining the board of the trust.
Well, anyone that's a trust member can be eligible to have votes for them to be a trust member of the board. You have to have a certain number of votes to be eligible to actually make that happen. It's actually the second time or second season in a row that I did stand for election. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful on both counts. So I will try next season and the season after that and see how it goes, and just keep on going.
And great to hear that. How did you find the election process? Do you felt it reached out to the fans? You alluded to you didn't get as many votes as you might like, and and for the benefit of the podcast, I've been in a similar position myself. How did you find the election? Was it very open? Did it? Do you feel it was getting out to the people, shall we say?
I think it was fairly open. I'm not too sure if it actually reached out to the majority of the fans themselves. What you have to understand is that many of the fans, or the punchers, as I call them, simply just go to see a match. They're not really that sort of bothered about the ins and outs of what's going on in the board. They just want to see a match, go home if we win, and that's it. But I wanted to make a difference by sort of saying and speaking my opinions on what improvements the club could be, shall we say, to improve the whole aspect of the club's running.
And can I just say, actively keep doing that. And if it's okay, and I know we've spoken about this, but about the podcast, we're going to follow you a little bit, excuse me, and just sort of see how you get through the process, and myself potentially in the future. So yes. If you would do that, I'd be delighted. So deliberately quite short at this point, because I know that we're going to have another section later on where we're going to talk about the more exciting stuff, general football, etc. Yeah. Thanks for coming on this section of the show. I'll see you in a little while.
Thank you.
Right, welcome back to the next section of Question of Trust. Thanks for listening so far. We've got a guest section at this point. I'd like to welcome on Luke Turton from Turton Talks. Luke, are you there?
Yes, hello, Alistair. Hello.
Hi, thanks for coming on. So tell me a little bit, or tell the people a little bit about what you do on your podcast. And how many shows you've done so far, because I believe you're fairly well established now.
Yeah, well, my channel has been in two parts, because I had a channel that was going from about midway through 2020, but that then randomly disappeared. So the now Phoenix channel is the one you'll currently now find on YouTube. But if we go on to what I actually do, I host league shows. I've done a Nottingham Forest season review, which got about 400 views. We'll round it up. And I just basically try and talk football as much as possible, to be honest.
And in terms of our connection, for the benefit of the podcast, you invited me onto one of your shows a little while ago, and we did a discussion related to the leagues in general. So at the time, I think I was a League Two representative. Was that right?
Yeah, I think must have been around the time just before Exeter got promoted, because I haven't done many league shows so far this season.
Okay, and I do hope I'll get an invite when the next one comes out. Right, as we always do on this show, if anybody comes on, if you were, I'm sure you've been a schoolboy footballer. I'm sure you play football. What's your style? Are you a defender? Are you a creative midfielder or a dashing striker? What's your style of play?
Well, I used to kind of vary between left back and up front. I never really had a fixed position. I just floated.
So does that make you a pacey, a jinky type player, or were you a big physical, aggressive type player?
I definitely say I was probably more quicker than I was physical.
And were you setting the goals up, or were you scoring the goals, or stopping them?
Um, Probably not a lot of either because I thought I wasn't that good. So
Oh, a bit like myself then. So, all right. So you're a Nottingham Forest fan. So
yep.
you're a world away from Exeter City, which is the whole part of this, to have some different perspectives. So, Nottingham Forest. How long have you been a fan?
I started following Forest in 2009.
Okay. And what division were they in then?
They were still in the championship. I mean, they were in the championship for my whole sporting existence, apart from this season.
Can I just say, so I'm coughing there. As an Exeter fan, the championship is just a whole world we'll never probably get to, although we're trying to aspire to. And I do love it the way that you were like, oh, we were in the championship as if it was some crazy place where weird things happen. So come down to the cheap seats of League One and League Two, and you'll see what it's like. But enough said about that, the better. So links with players. Can you put you on the spot again? Any players that you can think of that have played for the two clubs, Exeter and Forest?
Yeah, we had Jaden Richardson, Lee Martin, Jamie Mackey, John Paul Pittman.
Lee Martin, and
Yeah.
Jamie Mackey.
Yeah.
Was Jamie Mackey on loan? Or did you
Jamie
sign him?
Mackey. Did we sign him?
Yeah.
Did
Did you sign him on loan, or was he on
we personally signed him in 2013 from QPR.
Did you really? Of course you did.
Yeah.
He is a legend at Exeter, and he, well, how can I say? He ended up going to Plymouth, but we won't talk about that. The reasons behind that at the time. So, how long was Jamie with you?
Jamie was with us till 2015, so 2 years.
2 years, and was he popular? Did he do all right?
He got mixed reviews. I mean, it was around the time where a lot of the players got a mixed bag of reviews, so they either weren't liked or disliked, to be honest.
And how about Lee Martin? There's one who's only recently stopped playing for Exeter over the last couple of years. I guess he didn't play very many games for you. Would that be correct?
That definitely would be correct. I mean, he had, I think, a couple of fluke goals and fluke chances, and then went lower down. I think he went to Ipswich or something.
Yeah, when you say lower down, I think he went a little bit lower than that to Exeter as well. But I'm trying to think now. Exeter fans will correct me, but I think he played for about 3 seasons for us. Okay, so Nottingham Forest, Exeter City. You know, Exeter City's a fans' own club. I'll bored you with that. I know that. Can you think of other, firstly, supporter-owned clubs, and also how Forest owned? What's the structure? How are the fans involved?
I'll be totally honest. Not many clubs come to mind that are fan-owned. I'll be pretty honest on that one. As for how Forest is owned, well, we are owned by a Greek multi-millionaire, I want to say, Evangelos Marinakis, but it's also co-owned with Socrates Kobanakis.
Wow. Try saying those names after a few pints. Yeah. And how long have they been looking after the club?
Must have been at least 3 years because we had to force out Fawaz Al Hazawi for about again 2 to 3 seasons. We had a massive protest in the car park. We really did not like our former owner.
And now, are the fans actually involved, the supporters groups, or is it really just run for you, shall we say?
I'll be a bit kind of controversial here amongst the fan base of Forest. There
Right.
are groups that are sometimes influential and sometimes not, and our supporters kind of trust, if you like, won't really say anything too negative towards the club because they want to keep their relationship positive.
Yeah.
So
Get
it's
that.
not going to be an actual honest reflection of what they're actually feeling because they want to maintain that relationship.
And is that an official sort of like a trust where, like Exeter's 20 years ago, we had a trust, but we had no ownership of the club, and we were seen as probably a bit of an annoyance at the time. How is it a supporters club or is it a trust? Or how does it all work?
I think that is a trust. We also have Forza, who are more based on fans.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Oh, 1 second.
That makes sense. Like any good podcast, he's doing a transfer, I think, or something. Hold on, he's coming back to me. You're right. Are you there? Did we lose you?
Apologies for that one. Someone came in my room. What I was saying, we have Forza as well. They are the more genuine fans. They put across that sort of perspective. And if you've ever seen the flag displays,
Yes, they're brilliant, by the way. Really,
and the
really good.
tifos, they are arranged by Forza.
Right. Okay. And is that just an independent fans group in effect?
Yeah, they've set it up as a huge collection of fans that have just gone wild, basically.
How do they do that? Do they have like GoFundMe pages, or are they sponsored by businesses, or how does it work? Do you know?
I think they just do it totally off their own back, to be honest. I could be wrong. I'm sure some
Fair.
Forest fans that'll listen to this will correct me, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And by the way, if they are listening, thanks for listening. And it is QOTPOD. You can find us on Twitter, and you'll also see the links to Turton Talks as well. So, okay. So at Exeter, we've got something called the Red Legion, and they do similar stuff. So when we do our big games, you'll see the bits that are there. They're a little bit quieter these days, but they did do some really massive displays over the years. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit of information. I saw a clip related to trust-owned clubs or supporter-owned clubs. There's actually 7 major clubs out there. Please do go and have a look. Jamie Carragher was recently shot down by claiming that there might never be a fans-owned club in the Premier League. Excuse me, or in world football. Well, actually, there's a few out there. So do have a look round. I think Barcelona or Real Madrid, I think it is. The interesting one about them is like you have to be a member of some sort of supporters club for over 20 years. And then you need to have a serious amount of money lodged in a bank account to prove that you can go into the election to become president, which I find really interesting. So, but do have a look out there. So, this is a short excerpt. I want to say thanks for coming on. You are one of the first people on the first podcast that we've done. There will be some that will follow. The World Cup is taking out a lot of people's time at the moment. I know you're busy. Have you got some shows coming up? Just out of interest. You're doing commentary.
Yeah, I do commentaries on the World Cup currently, just a bit of a plug for that. You can also go back and listen to any of the games that are currently on the channel. So I did the Senegal game the other night on the Commentary Hub on YouTube. And if you want to search for their Twitter as well, it's Commentary Live 1.
Commentary Live 1.
they will be impressed.
Well, I know it's a community, these podcasts and things. So I'll when we launch the podcast, I'll put a little link in for you as well, because we need to promote these things around football. That's what makes it beautiful. So look, Luke, thanks for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and if you can recommend anybody to come on to us and do a similar interview, then please do so. If you hear of any interesting Exeter news or some weird bits of history there which you've caught me out on in terms of some of the players, just to let you know, Jaden Richardson, where's he now? Is he playing for you guys now? Did you say
Aberdeen?
He's at Aberdeen, because I can remember he was one of the fastest fullbacks I've ever seen. A midweek game in Oldham, he just knocked the ball past the player and literally just owned him. It was a beautiful thing to watch. But it's good to see that we've got some players together. Look, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. I'll see you soon. Yeah. Right, welcome to the guest section of the show, Question of Trust at QOTPOD. I'm really delighted to get this gentleman online. It took a little bit of a while, not just getting hold of him, but also today when we did our preparations. I'm going to thank him for his patience for that, because he really did a good job. So, Northern BBC, if I get this wrong, before I say your name, correct me and tell me I've got it wrong, because this is the research I've done on you. Northern BBC presenter for Exeter City matches, former City player, and a player who was a man of the match in one of my favourite games, which I watched. Manchester United player. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I believe you were Alex Ferguson's first signing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, he's nodding. Played for Horwich RMI to get match fitness. I'm intrigued to talk about that, and I'm assuming that's the Railway Institute, I believe. Made his debut for Exeter versus Wigan. Young Player of the Year 1992 to 1993. Played 27 times and was sadly, it was cut short by injury. And if you haven't worked it out already by now, Alan Tongue, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, Alistair. Great. Thanks for inviting me on.
So, was I far off the mark with my introduction?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you've done a little bit of your own work there, haven't you? It's on Wikipedia page or something.
Yeah. There was Wikipedia and a couple of things. Excuse me. Also to share, I believe. University of Bolton, did a degree.
Yeah.
Masters at a Liverpool University. I'm really interested. What did you do that in, may I ask?
Yeah, I mean, through my undergraduate program, my interest really is sports psychology, and from sort of some of the experiences that I had as a sort of young player and going through the different transition stages of schoolboy and being an apprentice and then being a young professional and having to come out of the game really early. I was intrigued by the mental side really. So my master's degree was in philosophy. I looked at some of the movements of football players as they sort of come through football and some of the psychological challenges that they faced and how they dealt with that and how it affected their identity. And that was kind of sort of some of the interesting stuff, as it were, that I pursued after my football had come to an end.
Now, for me personally, that's something that quite interests me generally. And this podcast, yes, it's related to Exeter City and Supporters Trust, but I am looking to, broaden it out into things like mental health. And I'm hoping to get somebody on to the next couple of shows around the effects of betting in supporters and probably players in the game. So if I'll happily, if you haven't spoken to the people at the time, put you in touch with them. I believe a quote from Borley, Alan Ball, you hated losing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I hated losing, or he hated losing. Probably Borley more than me.
It was a Borley more than you, was it?
He's very, very, just like a lot of people at the top of the trade, Alistair, just like wants to win everything, really, whether that's in a training situation or whether that's in a match situation. And he was, just a fiery, red-headed, as you know, through your following of Exeter, just a passionate football man. His dad was very, very similar to Alan Ball Senior, and obviously his dad had passed those traits on to his son. I think at the time, going back into the early 90s, I think, a lot of the Exeter supporters were probably, very happy in a way that a World Cup winner had come down and managed the club for a little spell.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I remember going myself to Stockport County, and he came off the team coach with his England blazer on, very proud. I can see you smiling for the benefit of the audio. And he'd worked out that I was a student up north in Yorkshire, and he'd seen me at a couple of games before, and he offered me some free complimentary tickets. Yeah, nice. A proper football man. So, and sorry, just to finish off, one thing related to you, you're a published author, I believe.
Yeah,
is that right?
In recent times, I've done a little bit of writing about my, from my master's and my PhD in relation to some of the psychological support that footballers get. So I've published a couple of chapters in a psychology in soccer text that was released in 2020, and I've also got another chapter in a transitions textbook, similar again, like football movements, and so it's just something I'm looking to expand on at the moment. Just trying to get a little bit of material out there, and probably more aligned, Alistair, to the academic world as opposed to sort of the general public.
Right. Okay. So more like the football community, as well. Yeah, in terms of coaching community, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Let's get some football questions in. Right. One of the things about this podcast, really interested in the ownership side of football. You're a Manchester United fan, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Are you a member of a trust up there?
Is there a trust? No, I'm not. I mean, to be fair, I think I'm probably more of a fan from a sort of an external perspective now than being a sort of a regular match going fan at United. A couple of reasons for that, really. My son Sam he's been a footballer. He's 19 now, so I've been following him for the last I don't know how many years, 10 years or so since he started playing. And
where's he playing?
He played for a team called Parkwidden as a junior. They're like a Salford-based side, and then he went to Oldham Athletic as like a schoolboy. So I've been following sort of Sam for a couple of years, but it didn't quite work out, and he's decided to follow like a coaching field. Like I say, he's 19 now, so it's just a choice of his. I think from some of the. From some of the experiences that I've had, probably don't blame him, to be honest with you. I think football's a tough industry, like a lot of things at the moment. But it's very up and down. It's very insecure, and it's driven as a lot of businesses are, Alistair, driven by results, isn't it? If you're not finding results, if you're not finding form, you're out the team. Your manager's getting sacked, etc. And I think there's a lot of change to deal with in football.
And with that in mind, because obviously I'm a huge supporter of community trust, how do you think, if you compare Manchester United and other teams like Oldham, how do you see the model that Exeter have got sort of working? Because obviously managers have had quite a lot of time
to settle. How do you think it works?
Well, fantastic. I mean, I think one of the things that you need sometimes in football is stability, Alistair, isn't it? And I think, going over the last period of Exeter's history, like Paul Tisdale was manager for quite a number of years, wasn't he? And then, Matt Taylor, ex-player, came in and he got plenty of time to try and put his own stamp on the club. And with the latest managerial appointment coming in now, Gary Caldwell, hopefully similar for him. Give him time to settle and put his own identity and his own ideas into Exeter. And I think a few owners these days are quite eager to pull triggers when things are a little bit rocky and things are going wrong. So from a stability perspective, fantastic. I think one of the things as well, one of the things that stands out about Exeter, Alistair, is just how friendly the club is. I see obviously the media lads when they come up into the north, lads like Craig Bratt and Scott Palfrey, and you have like Jed Pemberthy on last year helping Craig out. Obviously Harrison's come on this year as well, and the sort of like they strike me as a club where nothing's too much of a problem for anybody. They're really community driven. I was watching footage of the seniors' Christmas party in the week. Looks absolutely fantastic, and it's from a friendly, welcoming. And I hear other clubs as well saying that they really enjoy going down to Exeter and thanking all the staff there for the warm welcome and stuff like that. And it's a club very, very much going in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Do you think that influences, because we always hear this thing about northern players coming down to, let's be honest, yokel southwest of England? I'm one myself, I know, or a London lad coming down. Do you think that sort of helps them? And also, do some of them look at it and go, "Nah, I don't want to go that distance," or "Oh, hold on a second, it's a community club, friendly club."
Possibly, it's difficult sometimes, isn't it? Because footballers can be a bit picky. They want to stay around major cities and stuff like that, and anything sort of south of Birmingham's classed as southerners to us, up in the north sort of thing. So yeah, it's a bit of a trek down there. I remember when I sort of like first came down to Exeter, and I've said this in podcasts before. I was not sounding rude to Exeter because I've probably been very fortunate to come through Man United's youth setup and be a pro United, but I wasn't too sure where Exeter was at the time. I mean, I'd classify myself as a reasonably academic and intelligent person, but if you said to me at 19, Alistair, where's Exeter on a map, I probably would have struggled to sort of find that. But yeah, I think it may be attracting people down into the southwest. But Exeter have got such a fantastic youth setup, haven't they? So you look at the time, some of the players that they brought through a different class, really, and players that are doing really, really well at the moment.
I was going to ask you about. I had a question for you in terms of that, because obviously you were down in the early 90s, and what was it like at that time in terms of, were there age groups all the way through? Was there a lot of coaches? Or was there just like under 18s with 17s and 16s playing up, so to speak? What was it like in those days?
Yeah, probably more centred on something called the School of Excellence back then. So anything from under 14s onwards, you train at the club a couple of nights a week. But I remember when Alan Ball came and we had like the youth development manager or officer back then was a lad called Mike Radford, and Mike had served Exeter for a long time, a fantastic fellow. And some really, really good youth players coming through Mike and, into the first team. Then obviously under Terry Cooper, and then onto when Alan Ball arrived, I think he was always pushing for younger players to be given opportunities. So back then we had in the apprentice group, there was lads like Martin Phillips, Gary Rice, Richard Pears, John Richardson. Anthony Thirlby, I think, had a couple of games with the first team, and so he was looking to do it, and I think he said about Martin Phillips at the time, didn't he? Like he's going to be a really top player, and I think he took him with him to Man City, didn't he? When Bawley moved on,
I think he went for about 600,000 at the time. he got us out of a financial hole, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
So that was a big transfer, like you say.
Yeah.
So and with regards to sort of like the loan system and stuff, were they going out on loan, or it wasn't? It was quite a transition to men's football at the time. How did that work?
I think it didn't, and the reason why it didn't is we used to play in I think it was called the Devon and Exeter Premier League back then. So you played against adults, yeah. So the under 18s, Alistair, were in an adults league. So we played against teams like Exeter Civil Service or Honiton Town or Cliffs Rovers, or teams that were kind of in the Devon and Exeter Premier League at the time. So in relation to loan experiences, you didn't really have to send lads out to get adult football, if that makes sense, because they were already playing against adult sides. So that,
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, arguably that was a better format. You go higher up the food chain, and they say, like all this age v age stuff, like the 14s play the 14s and the 16s play the 16s, 18s play the 18s. It's like how well is that setting you for adult football? I know they've brought in under 21s Premier League sides have come into that Papa John's trophy and stuff like that, to try and give them that replication of what it's like to perform in an adult world. But back then in the kind of the A teams or the under 18s, or you were playing against adult sides, and I think it brought you on a little bit in relation to, you had to be quicker, as you was closed down quite quickly. You needed to develop your physicality, your mentality, your technical ability, of course, and I think
the dark arts, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, because adults will try and wind young players up. They'll be ruthless with you. They'll try and intimidate you through verbals and banter and stuff like that. So yeah, it does bring you on a bit from a psychological perspective. Absolutely.
And just jumping around a little bit in terms of, you were at United, you started at 14, I think. Who was in your peer group? And are you still in friends and in contact with those guys, or has it been a little bit like brutal?
Yeah. When I arrived at United, we had I think again it was just sort of like United were kind of always had a good youth policy, because a bit like Exeter, it's been part of their identity since the Busby Babes, going back into the sort of the 50s, and then United have always tried to bring young players through into the first team. And in my age group, we had lads like Mark Bosnich, Alex Ferguson's son called Darren. Darren Ferguson played in United's first team. Lee Sharp, he was kind of just coming through with our crop, and Ryan. Yeah.
Lee Sharp joined you, didn't he? From am I thinking Lee Sharp, Torquay? And he was, I think he was signed by Alex Ferguson at a car park. He must have joined you when he was about 17. Is that right?
That's right. So I don't know whether United or Fergie had been scouting or something down there, Alistair, and he'd seen this big, rangy, strong, left-footed player for his age, because, like you say, he was only quite a young lad, really, at 17, and I think he was almost like sort of, we'll have you, we'll take you to United, and he went on to become an England international, and that was. You don't see that a lot these days, in relation to recruitment. I know football's changed a lot, but going scouting like League One, League Two, to see if you can pick up some gems, and it tends to be, especially at United, they go fishing in all the massive ponds now. Like, you're looking at 70, 80, 90 million quid for a player, where you get a lot of talent down in the lower leagues that just sort of are passed over these days. It's not really a transfer pool that a lot of the Premier League's sides go and looking and go and fishing.
It's probably the case, and I'll reveal something to you. I am a qualified FA youth coach, and I've run a couple of youth teams, and it's interesting what you say about, if you get to a certain age, you're probably not going to make it. Right, and it's very unlikely that you'll get picked because of the programs that are out there. Yeah. So that's changed quite a lot in the last 25 years, you'd say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because I was over. I thought I'd do a little bit of scouting in the week. I went over to watch Man United's under-21s and play Bolton Wanderers. On I think it was Tuesday night this week.
It's Tuesday night, wasn't it? They had a full house of away fans, I believe. Saw it on TikTok. It was.
I think United took 1,600 with them to watch an under-21s game. I think a lot of the United supporters are just missing the football at them. I know the World Cup's been on, but a lot of fans are missing the club football, aren't they, at the Premier League level, of course. It was good. It was a good experience. Bolton quite a strong side, so I thought I'll go and have a look, Alice, to see if I can, spot any of their players that might be a danger for Saturday for Exeter. And,
well, it's interesting you say that, because you're coming on to the game, and I believe there's about 1,000 Exeter fans on the way up, but I believe there's about 19,000 Bolton fans going. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they've played a good one tomorrow, because they've got like a massive Santa dash on at 11:30. I just mentioned that to you early.
Fine, yeah.
A lot of the people who are coming doing the Santa dash, I think they were giving free tickets out. So I think there's rumours of maybe over 20,000 watching tomorrow. So that should be interesting. It should be a really good atmosphere for Exeter to come and play in.
And tell me, you're dressing up as Santa for.
I'm gonna do the dash. I've raised a few quid for the trust, the Bolton Wanderers in the community trust that they have, sort of mirror to Exeter up in the north. And I thought, I think they were raising some money to try and open the ground up for vulnerable people this Christmas, to give them some hot food and some drink over this tough period. And then I said I'd do the match commentary for Radio Devon. I'll keep my Santa outfit on, and why not? I'm sure Santa must have done match commentary before today, so we'll have a go at that as well.
And with your, I know you've had a history of a back injury that caused problems. You're okay running, I assume. That's why, and that you don't have too many problems from that these days. Yeah,
I'll just take it steady. Unfortunately, like you say, Alistair had a terrible back injury when in my early 20s. I had to have screws in my spine, so it was really, really nasty. That was my destiny. Unfortunately, my football career didn't really work out like I wanted it to, and I had to go down another angle.
Remind me, did that happen in an Exeter City match, or did it happen in training? Or
yeah, it was a strange one, really. It was more of something that started to get worse. My dad used to follow me quite a bit and watch games, and he said that there was an incident where he felt it might have happened, where I'd gone up for a header and like gone on someone's back, just come down on my backside. But whether that did it or not, I'm not sure. But it just got progressively worse over a period of time. I started to get pins and needles in my legs and my feet, and
really
being stupid because I love football. I just kept on with it. And my mentality at the time, because it was, talk about that mental health stuff, Alistair. It's all like macho, and you got to crack on, and you'll be all right, and don't worry about it, and stuff like that. And I just pushed on with it, and it just got to a stage where it was like I was really, really struggling with it. And I remember one particular game, I had to rub a load of deep heat onto my back just to try and get through it. And it turned into I needed 2 operations on it, and that was unfortunately the end of me football. So it was. So tomorrow I'll just take it nice and steady, a nice slow jog. That'll be fine.
And in terms of your playing career, then, am I right in thinking, when I'm guessing this, right, that being man of the match in a Devon derby was one of the highlights of your Exeter career, or have you got another that I've missed?
Yeah, probably the three. I already had a very, very short career. I didn't play many games at all, but the 3 kind of standouts with the Boxing Day Plymouth win. I think that was a fantastic occasion. Borley had us pumped up all week and saying, like, you can't let the fans down and stuff like that. And I think we all ran out on that morning. I think it was a 11:30 kickoff. Everybody was frothing at the mouth to get a result, and we managed to do that, which gave all the Exeter fans a really good Boxing Day, which was brilliant. Right. My second one was probably one of my favourites, was when we went to Reading away, and I played behind Scott Eiley, and I was fortunate enough to see Scotty Eiley knock his hat-trick in.
Oh, the hat-trick came.
Yes, yeah. Left foot, right foot header. So I put a perfect hat-trick. And
I don't think I was at that game. It was 5-4, wasn't it? Is that right?
3-2.
3-2. I'm thinking of a different game.
Yeah, 3-2 for Exeter. And I think there was an old Newcastle goalkeeper in goal for Reading called Shaka Hislop. he's a bit like Jamal Blackman, a really big presence in the goal, and Scotty managed to knock free past him that day. And what stood out was like a fantastic away end that particular afternoon. There were like loads of Exeter fans, and I think they got told off by the police. Like when Scotty got his third and his header, he jumped onto the fence, I think, and all the fans were like crowding around. So it was like really good. And so that was the other one. And then the third one that probably stands out is they say this is the measure of a football. I got man of the match away at Stoke City on a cold, rainy, muddy night. Stoke were doing really well at the time. I think they were top of the league. We were kind of coughing and spluttering, struggling a bit. And we managed to get a 1-1 draw at Stoke, and
I was at that game.
Yeah. Brilliant,
If I remember rightly, we went 1-0 up.
Yeah, we did. Andy Cook scored the goal, and then I think Stoke got back on terms and give us we had to really battle in second half to get the points. And I think it was, if it's one of them games, you look at the data and you think, how on earth has Stoke not won this? Like 20 odd shots and 12 on target and all that. But
that was the old Victoria ground, wasn't it?
It was.
Do you remember hearing how loud Delilah was second half?
Yeah, it was great because I think Exeter were tucked in like a little corner of the ground. Because I remember sort of like going over on that evening, and but Alan Ball used to, on occasion, myself and my old mate in Exeter, Dave Cooper, used to give us things like marking jobs to do. So he said, like in the Plymouth game, he said, I want you to follow Warren Joyce all over the place. He had me man marking a lad who come to Exeter a bit later on in his career called Russell Coughlin, who was a Swansea lad.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, and on that particular night, he wanted me to follow Kevin Russell round, who was like, he saw a Stokes danger man. So I was just kind of trying to kick him when I could and hassle him and hurry him up and stuff like that. And like I said, we got a decent point there. So there's probably the three kind of standout games out of the kind of the small number of games that I played.
Just to give you a bit of an insight about me getting to that game, I was at Huddersfield University at the time. And my mate, who's actually a Bolton Wanderers fan, saw me in the library and he goes, I thought you'd be going to the game. I said, I can't get there. And he had a classic sports car. And he goes, come on, we're going. And it wasn't a very good, remember, it wasn't a great night, if you remember, weather-wise.
It wasn't.
And we got there 15 minutes before kickoff. But that was, you brought back a really happy memory.
Yeah, but Bowley, before that game, he said to us, because he'd been at Stoke, Alistair, as the manager, and I don't think it had not ended very well. I don't know if you remember, we played Stoke at St James's Park in one of the early games of the season, and apparently a lot of the Stoke fans would give Bowley a bit of grief, like throwing tea over him and stuff like that. And
I do remember that the return fixture, their club shop had given us all the Bowley hats.
Right.
And all the Exeter fans who were at Stoke, there was 1,500 of us, I think, that day.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right in saying, and I will get corrected, anybody can Twitter in if I got it wrong, I think Darren Rowbottom scored in front of the away end. And they were fuming because we had the hats on. And obviously, we went ahead. I think we ended up losing the game, but my mind fades. Talking of games, I know I've had you for a little while. What's your prediction for the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I think after Exeter's kind of performance last Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday, which I believe was a good one. Exeter were very unlucky. I couldn't believe 94th minute equaliser, a real shame. Should have had 3 points. So based on that bit of form, I think Exeter can go and enjoy themselves tomorrow and hopefully replicate the result that we got a season or so ago when we went up there and beat them 2-1 with the last. Piers Sweeney scored with the last.
Piers Sweeney.
Oh, what a header! About 94 minutes or something, and that kept us in the promotion race. I think in the playoff places. So
that's right.
Yeah, that must have been the season 2020. Yeah, 2021. That would have been, wasn't it? Because we got promoted 21-22, didn't we? So
and a little shout out for a YouTuber who's quite funny, Turton, who I've tried to contact before this game. it was quite amusing watching their YouTube clips because they were all outside. Well, you were probably inside commentating. And,
That's right.
And let's just say it was interesting. How many games have you commentated for Exeter now? And do you do other games?
Yeah, quite a few. My first kind of commentary, I think, was 2019. I was doing a little bit of radio work up here for Radio Manchester, and I think it was the lad who's head of BBC Devonsport called Alan Richardson had contacted Radio Manchester and said, "Do you know anybody who will do Macclesfield and Exeter?" So maybe thinking like, maybe a Manchester-based person or somebody who's had an affiliation with Macclesfield. Maybe I don't know. So he said, "Well, Alan used to kind of play down there many years ago." He said he's probably ideal, really. So Alan contacted me, and I did that, and then since then I've done quite a number of the northern games where Exeter have kind of travelled up here. They usually give me within a range of about 2 hours, so I get like Carlisle or Scunthorpe or Grimsby. I did Northampton at the end of last season, which was brilliant. Exeter got a really good point against them to what we thought was like going to set them up and win the league. Unfortunately, it just didn't quite work out last game of the season. But yeah, done Salford City, Tranmere, Bolton, Oldham, etc. Loads of northern teams, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. It's nice to, some of the football I've seen has been absolutely fantastic from Exeter over this last season or two. Especially in the promotion season. Some brilliant results and some fantastic little players in Exeter's side, and it's been really pleasing to watch. It really has.
And that brings me on to I promise literally my final question, because you've been phenomenal, and I want to say thank you for that. Transfer window. I'm going to put you on the spot. You're the Exeter City boss, right? You've watched the team like us fans. How would you supplement the team? What do you think we need for that little bit of X factor, shall we say?
Yeah, I think there's some really good players. I think I'll flip this on its head, because I'm always concerned that when teams do really well, like Exeter have been doing for the last season and a half now with the promotion, and starting off the season reasonably well too, vultures circling on your players, don't you? So lads like Josh Key, lads like Giovanni Brown, that's always a concern. And I think Exeter. I said at the start of the season when we played Lincoln first game that Exeter will hold their own, because I was very impressed with the League Two campaign. And I said I'm sure Exeter will find some results here within the League One campaign, which they are doing. And it's just worrying now that maybe players might start to think, especially with Matt Taylor going to Rotherham as well, because it tends to happen in football, unfortunately. Managers come back for players, and I'm sure there'll be maybe a few rumours circling in January that he might come in and take some of the players up to Rotherham. But I think for me, in recent times, we've had a bit of trouble at centre half, haven't we? I know Pierce Sweeney is a fantastically experienced player, but you need players around you. And we've had, Czech Diabate's had an injury. Sam Stubbs, he's a warrior, and unfortunately he's had like a really bad knee problem, and it just left us a little bit light, I think, in the centre of that defence. I know Josh Key's kind of dropped in to play alongside Pierce Sweeney and young Alex Hartridge, of course. So I think maybe a centre half, depending on what happens to Sam Stubbs, and I know Czech's just coming back now, isn't he, from his injury situation? But I mean, I think Exeter are pretty good all round. I mean, what about a decent left winger? What do you think about that? Because we've lost a couple, haven't we, over the last year? So I know Joel Randall used to play out there, didn't he? Which he's obviously moved on to Peterborough. Yeah. And then we had like Randell Williams could switch wings as well. He predominantly right, but he could come on the left as well. I know Jack Sparks, and the way that Exeter set up with kind of two attacking fullbacks, like Jack Sparks and Jake Caprice and Josh Key on that right-hand side, maybe a quality left winger would be good. But it depends, Alistair, on what Gary Caldwell's kind of systems are, doesn't it? There's no point bringing players in if they don't fit into his system. But in a general sense, I think all round, I think Exeter are pretty solid, to be honest with you. They've got some really, really good players in lots of different positions.
And like you say, I think it's important that we keep the squad together as best we can, and maybe one or two players. Transfer window. Would you be happy in a month, 6 weeks' time, maybe just to join a little discussion about the transfer window with some supporters? Because
of course, no problem at all. Yeah, that'd be great.
That'll be absolutely fabulous. Look, you've given me double the time I expected you to, and I really want to say thank you from QOTPOD for doing that. Cheeky request, if you could mention us tomorrow, I'll be highly delighted on the commentary. Thanks for wishing to come back. Keep doing the commentaries. It's always nice to see you. Away games. I think we recognise each other, but I'll come and find you and shake your hand next time we're about. I'm going to say a Merry Christmas as well, because we're just before Christmas. And by the way, can I just say, for the audio, we've both got Christmas trees up in the background. I'm going to say that, Alan, your Christmas tree wins. So,
I've got Stuart James, who writes for Devon Live. I think he was with the Western Morning News for a spell. He sent me a little Exeter City shirt. An away one from 92, 93. Remember the one, Alistair, where it looked as though yellow paint and white paint had been thrown all over it. So that takes pride of place on my tree. I've got like a little replica shirt that always gets like hung on there.
You might have persuaded me to wear my retro shirt of that style to the game tomorrow.
Yeah,
so, well, can I say thanks for coming on the show? You've been a marvellous guest. Thank you. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you in the new year. Yeah.
Thanks, Alistair. Thanks for inviting me on. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Right, the fun section of QOTPOD. Welcome back, Mick. Are you there, Mick?
Hi, I'm still there, mate. I'm okay, thanks. Thank you.
Good stuff. We're going to talk Exeter City general discussion. I'm going to throw a few things out there, Mick, for you to comment on in no particular order. World Cup. Firstly, we had a couple of players, inverted commas, a couple of players at the World Cup. What do you think about England's performance and Argentina winning?
Well, I didn't actually see much of the World Cup at all. The only match that I saw was England versus the United States, and that was pretty dreadful as far as I'm concerned. And then I stopped the World Cup afterwards. But the Argentina final, I didn't see that either, but I did hear that they won on penalties, I believe.
Oh, it was an amazing game. It was 3-3 in penalties. 2-0 down, and the game was buried. France came back on, scored 2 goals in 1.5 minutes, and almost won it. Then it went to extra time, and all good fun. But I mean, England aside, from Exeter City perspective, Ethan Ampadu, he marshalled the Wales central midfield. Sorry, did you see him play at all?
Unfortunately, not. No, sorry about that.
All right, and then I'm going to throw out, because you won't know this, right? I think there was a trialist that came to Exeter that we let go, who was also in the World Cup. Have you got any idea who it could be?
No.
Okay. We'll get on to Exeter stuff in a minute. It was Kiefer Moore, apparently, came down for a trial.
Oh, yeah.
I won't say the manager that he came under trial for, but obviously you let him go and now he's playing in a World Cup. So less said about that, the better. Right, let's get Exeter results then. So yes. in the last period, we have played Peterborough at home. That was a good result, wasn't it?
It certainly was, yes. Quite a gritty match. I'm glad that we actually won that in the last few minutes. Good all-round performance.
Absolutely delighted. What about Morecambe away? 1-1 draw, I think it was from memory. 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I didn't go to that one. I did hear it was a draw. It sounded as if it was a well-deserved, hard-fought draw as well, from what I discovered.
I was at that game with my lad, and it was 250 odd Grecians on a Friday night. Well done them, and a gritty performance, like you say. Sheffield Wednesdays, slightly more frustrating.
It was very frustrating. I mean, having to concede a goal in the last few seconds of the match, it was heartbreaking, I have to admit. It was a game that we should have really killed off.
Yeah, I felt sorry for the players. Did you see their body language at the end? They were distraught. So, but they put a lot of effort into that. Right, the next game or games, we'll cover these two and get them out of the way.
Yeah,
Oxford FA Cup seniors and youth. We'll just move on, shall we?
Sounds like a good idea. I didn't go to that match either, but I did hear it was a 4-0 defeat. Obviously, badly. Yeah. Very poor, unfortunately. And
then after all that, cost of living crisis, it's been said, Bolton away. 945 extra fans, something like that. Absolutely amazing. Now, I know you was there because we flukily sat next to each other, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the game?
I personally thought it was one of the worst matches that I've seen this season.
Wow.
The players, for some reason, were playing out of position. There was no communication. There didn't seem to be any tactics. And I was surprised that we actually lost only 2-0, so to speak.
It was disappointing, I thought, because actually I think in the second half we did play a little bit better, but the game is gone. So, Christmas Pompey coming up, Boxing Day. We're sat just for Christmas. Transfer window. You're the boss temporarily. Good luck. First area to strengthen.
Defense.
Okay. Second area to look at.
Yeah. I would say personally, right back. We need at least one or possibly two right backs to strengthen the defense. One midfielder wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, I think you hit the right. I think we've got some good players around. I think we've worked them really hard, and I think they need a bit of support around them. So, fingers crossed that's going to happen. Players that don't want to lose.
Giovanni for a start.
Yeah, Giovanni is. They say he's filthy in the nicest way, the way he plays. I think that's what the kids say these days. His touch, isn't it? Anybody else you want to not lose?
Well, how many players do we actually have out of contract?
Do you know, that's a good question. I think you're right. Let's keep the players that are potentially going out of contract and strengthen them around them, isn't it? I think that's our conclusion related to the transfer window.
Yeah.
So in terms of the transfer window, obviously this show's in the bag, as you know, and it's going to go out literally before Christmas now. Thanks for your efforts, by the way, for getting that off the ground. It's very much appreciated. You're up for coming back and discussing a little bit more about the trust and also a little bit more about the transfer window, yeah?
Yeah, that was fine. Not a problem.
Cool. Might throw a few more other things at you when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Mick, this has been a blockbuster one. I think we're over 60 minutes. We're a little bit short on this bit. I think we're going to expand it next time round.
Yeah.
And because the transfer window will be unbelievable. I'm going to say Merry Christmas and thanks for coming on. And I'll see you I might see you Boxing Day of the new year, I guess.
Thank you so much, Al. Merry Christmas to you and family, and hopefully I'll see you on Boxing Day for the Pompey home match.
I'm planning to be there. All right.
Good
At
stuff.
QOTPOD, get everybody going to that QOTPOD and like the show if we can. Thanks for your time.
Yes, Al. Anytime, mate.
Okay, Question of Trust, QOT podcast, episode 1. It's in the bag. Firstly, thanks for listening this far. It does mean a lot. If you have any subjects or discussion points for the show, let us know. You can find us on our social media channels. They will be expanded, but Twitter is a good one under QOTPOD, QOTPOD. Our views are directly to be positive about our club, the trust and football. We will discuss issues from the terrace. Some may be uncomfortable, and we'll always look to be authentic. And we'll always just be football fans of the beautiful game. If you actively join the Exeter City Trust after listening to the podcast, please let us know and we'll add you to the Hall of Fame. You'll get a name check, and if you refer us to a celebrity fan who puts some money in the club, that'll be very helpful. If you're a company owner that wishes to sponsor us, please feel free to do that. We'll give you name checks off the back of this show. You can find us on streaming platforms. Feel free to share and boost our listener base in the pub, at work, and any place where you watch football. There are other Exeter Direct podcasts available. Feel free to look at them. I'll shout out your podcast in a community if it's linked to football, especially if you come on and do an interview and share things that are going on. Please point out our bloopers. Sorry, there's one exactly there. If you're fans of another club, please link to us on our Twitter. We'll name check you. Feel free to do an account because there's been quite a few of them. Thanks for listening. Football love to you. It's a beautiful game.